Where is this big star? Where is this savior I've been hearing about? For months leading up to her big debut on the sinking Titanic, we were told that Kaitlan Collins was the biggest up-and-coming star in cable news. Katie Roo! Katie Roo! This young woman, she was going to save CNN. She was going to restore prestige. She was going to bring this dying network back to prominence. Former president of CNN, Chris Licht, better known as Chris the Bongo Licker, he basically risked his entire media career by backing Katie Roo Collins. Now, of course, he lost that wager. Back in May, the evil orange man, he agreed to a town hall that was hosted by CNN. Instead of Chris Licht relying on someone with experience to go one-on-one with the orange one, instead of relying on someone like Andy Cooper or Wolf Blitzer, woof, woof, the Bongo Licker, he decided to give the job to Katie Roo, who proceeded to get absolutely eviscerated by the Trumper on her own network. Couple of days later, Chris Licht fired by CNN. Earlier this week, we were gifted a quote from one of the greatest philosophers ever known. Millions of people admire this man for his great intellect. Well, KC, who is this brilliant scholar? I'm talking about the grown man who calls himself Shay Shay. Earlier this week, he was talking about the decline of Zion Williamson. During the segment on ESPN, Shay Shay, he said, "A wise man learns from the mistakes of others. Only a fool will learn from his own mistakes." That brilliant quote from Uncle Shay, it perfectly applies to the media career of Kaitlan Collins. When CNN announced that they were moving Ruru to primetime, I told you guys it was a mistake for Kaitlan Collins to accept this role. She was putting herself in a position where failure was the only option. At the time, she was being described as one of the future stars in cable news. It was the perfect position to be in. You want to be talked about as the one with potential. You want to be discussed as the star of the future. Eventually, you parlay those discussions into a job that will hopefully guarantee your success. Becoming the foundation of the primetime lineup at CNN, that is not a job that guarantees success. Matter of fact, it guarantees the exact opposite, huge embarrassing failure. And that is exactly what's happening to the media career of Kaitlan Collins. Instead of Katie Roo being patient, instead of Roo waiting for an opening at Fox News or MSNBC, she accepts the first opportunity that was presented to her. She bit into the shit sandwich that Chris Licht was serving. "Don't worry, Katie, I'm going to make you a star. You're going to be the biggest star at CNN." First of all, Chris Licht has never created a star. How long was he president at CNN? I don't know, almost 2 years? In that time, I cannot think of one star that Chris Licht was responsible for creating. He fired plenty of stars. He freed up millions in the catering budget by firing the donut diva Brian Stelter. He pissed off dozens of lonely men when he fired Donnie and his pint-sized lemons. But I can't think of one instance where Chris Licht created a star. And number two, becoming the biggest star at CNN, that is not some great accomplishment. Actually, it's an impossibility because there is no such thing as a star at CNN. Unlike many of the other huge embarrassing failures working at this network, Kaitlan Collins is actually good at something. She does have a semblance of talent. Katie Roo is a good reporter. She's a decent journalist. Problem is, she absolutely sucks as a host. She lacks the two basic things that are needed to build an audience: relatability and charisma. Kaitlan Collins has the charisma of a deflated whoopee cushion. It's useless. All you can do is stare at it, which is all Kaitlan Collins is good for in primetime at CNN. When you watch the show on mute, it's actually a decent show. Soon as the volume comes on, you change the channel. The rapid ascent of Kaitlan Collins at CNN, it made no sense. She went from never hosting a show to being the third chair on CNN This Morning behind Poppy Harlow and the real star of that show, Don Lemon. But for some reason, Kaitlan Collins thought she was the star. Rue thought that she was the attraction. She was the reason that people were watching. Now, of course, people weren't watching, which is why Don Lemon was eventually fired and Kaitlan Collins was moved to prime time. That doesn't make sense, right? Name another cable news anchor who fails miserably in morning television and then they get promoted to prime time. Over the summer, when Katie Rue debuted in primetime at CNN, the ratings were absolutely brutal. Fox News tripling her audience, MSNBC doubling her audience. Kaitlan Collins found herself competing with News Nation, the home of Chris Cuomo. Hey, it's me, Chrissy C. She found herself competing with the guy that she was trying to replace. Within a couple of months, there were rumors going around that CNN was already thinking about moving Kaitlan Collins out of prime time. But then the unthinkable happened. The biggest star at CNN stepped in and temporarily saved the media career of Katie Rue. The only person capable of generating ratings at CNN, Donald Trump, Orange Man bad. He turned himself into the first district court of the woke, with his mugshot being featured on CNN 24 hours a day. Kaitlan Collins went from averaging 500,000 viewers or less to pulling over 800,000 seemingly overnight. Fast forward to October, when the conflict in Israel begins, Katie Rue was still averaging 756,000 viewers. Woohoo! Yes, yes, yes. Problem was, Kaitlan Collins, she was not responsible for this success. She wasn't responsible for these ratings. Like I've told you guys before, and I don't know why this is the case, but for some weird reason, when there is major news breaking, CNN experiences a steep decline or a steep ascent in ratings, a spike in ratings. Ratings at MSNBC and primetime, they actually declined during the month of October when all that stuff in Israel was going on. Ratings at CNN, I think they increased by 17%. And with Katie Rue, she damn near doubled the size of her audience. But like I said, she wasn't responsible for this growth. She was merely benefiting from the circumstances. It doesn't matter what's going on. Sean Hannity, he's going to average about 2 million viewers. Joy Reid has a loyal audience of 1.3 million shitfucks. No matter what's going on, Rachel Maddow's going to pull 2 million viewers minimum. Successful cable news hosts, they build a loyal following. People that will watch their shows no matter what. Kaitlan Collins, she's got two things working against her. She doesn't have the charisma to build a following, and she's working at a network that no one is watching. Charles Barkley can't draw ratings at CNN. What the hell made anyone think that an anonymous Katie Rue was going to save this network? Now that things are back to normal, ratings for the source of failure with Kaitlan Collins have returned to their original averages. Last month, Katie Rue was averaging 532,000 viewers, a decline of over 200,000 in the span of 30 days. This month, it's even worse. Kaitlan Collins barely eclipsing 500,000 viewers. If you combined the audience for every show in December, Kaitlan Collins would have 5.6 million viewers. Rachel Maddow draws that same number in 3 days. Same with Sean Hannity. It takes Kaitlan Collins, 2, maybe 3 weeks to draw what Sean Hannity draws in 3 days. In order for Kaitlan Collins to be successful, she needed to offer something different. Now, to be fair, in her defense, I don't know if CNN will allow her to offer something different. With Chris Licht getting fired and new management taking over in October, Katie Rue damn sure doesn't have the pull to put up a fight, which is the reason I said it was a mistake to accept this job to begin with. But for her to be successful at CNN, she's got to be different. Why would I watch the female version of Andy Cooper when I could just watch the original? Why would I watch Jake Tapper in a dress when I could watch the original Bongo Tapper in his usual elitist form? Instead of Katie Rue offering something different, she is giving viewers of CNN the exact same thing they see from Jake Tapper and Andy Cooper. Earlier this week, I showed you guys footage of Jake Tapper trying to associate Donald Trump with Hitler. If I remember correctly, The Bongo Tapper, he aired this segment on Sunday. Very next day, 24 hours later, Kaitlan Collins, she runs the exact same segment. I mean, she damn near quoted Jake Tapper verbatim. Only difference between these two segments, one featured a feminine face and feminine voice, and the other just featured a feminine dude. Watch for yourself.
The man who is leading the Republican field's amped-up immigration rhetoric is now invoking the same terms that were once used by Adolf Hitler. In Mein Kampf, Hitler wrote, "The Jew," and I'm quoting him here, "poisons the blood of others." Trump has used that line before and other phrases like it that echo Nazi rhetoric, but it should be noted that, as you can see there, he is reading off a teleprompter, meaning that he knew exactly what he wanted to say.
South America, Africa, Asia. No mention of Europe in Mr. Trump's list. And he uses the term poisoning the blood of our country, poisoning the blood of our country. If you were to open up a copy of Hitler's Mein Kampf, you would find the Nazi leader describing the mixing of non-Germans with Germans as poisoning. The Jew, Hitler wrote, quote, poisons the blood of others.
This is not a recipe for success. No one watched this garbage when Jake Tapper presented it on Sunday. What made CNN think that people would be interested because it was presented by Kaitlan Collins? Not to mention the fact that this was lazy journalism. I thought that was Kaitlan's area of expertise. I thought she was supposed to be some excellent journalist. Seems to me, Kaitlan is a parrot. She listens to Jake Tapper and repeats every fucking word he says. Yesterday, it was announced that CNN would be hosting Ron DeSantis and Nikki Haley in back-to-back town halls. They selected someone named Aaron Burnett and Kaitlan Collins to moderate the town halls. Now, guess which candidate Kaitlan will be hosting? Just take a wild guess. After what happened in May with Trump, you would think executives at CNN would give Kaitlan Nick Haley. She's going to be going one-on-one with Ron DeSantis. I would imagine it's going to be absolutely brutal. If Kaitlan continues down this path of failure, I don't see her remaining in prime time at CNN by this time next year. New CNN President Mark Thompson, he hasn't made any drastic changes just yet, but I would figure it's coming. Most of the time when new leadership takes over a company, they like to put their stamp on the company. Within a few months of being hired at CNN, Chris Licht fired Brian Stelter and a few other old white dudes. The primetime lineup at CNN, it is an embarrassing failure. Something has got to change, and there's got to be someone to blame for it. Not going to be Andy Cooper, not going to be Laura Coates. Both of them check far too many woke boxes. It's going to be Kaitlan Collins. You know, Don Lemon might have fallen from grace in the ratings, but at least he was generating mainstream interest. At least Donnie was generating headlines in the mainstream media. Think about this. How often do you hear about Kaitlan Collins? How often do you see one of her segments circulating on social media? Kaitlan Collins has zero impact. But give me your thoughts on this. After seeing a drastic rise in ratings in August and October, Kaitlan Collins comes crashing back down to reality. Does she have any chance to succeed at CNN? If she continues down this path and primetime ratings at CNN continue their decline, will Kaitlan Collins take the blame for it? Will she be fired? Or at minimum, will she be moved out of prime time? You let me know. Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. I appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys tomorrow.